set piece attack.
Yeah. What's your read on what's going on with the Irish defence? Like, 34 missed tackles. I definitely take your point about the level of training that's going on and how that might affect Irish legs. And we don't know what they've done in the last 10 days. You know, we don't know, have they run the legs off them, or you know, how seriously they took this game when it came to just physical preparation.
Seriously. But you're right there. I think that someone that. Yeah, go on. You want to ask me juicier questions?
Yeah, a more interesting one. So say, look, we discount what happens after 50 minutes. You know, the bench empties or whatever. Of those 34
No, but I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can do that either. To be fair.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that. But 21 of the 34 missed tackles were in the first half. You know, England are scoring tries off first phase in the first half, and some of the issues we see, you know, maybe Stockdale finding himself exposed out wide, and I'm not saying it's all his fault, but these were not new problems either, you know, and maybe that's the more worrying thing. Like, can you make sense of what the Irish defence is doing? Stuart Barnes was talking about a lack of aggression and line speed, various other things. Like, what was going on there? There must be some fundamentals of.
I think, well, to have line speed, you need understanding before that. And I don't think there was genuine understanding. And the fact that you probably had an Irish backline going against each other in training in Portugal for the week. But what they faced on game day was a lot different to the probably strikes they faced in training during the week. England were exceptional at forward. I think I probably have been a bit harsh on them in recent years, but I have to hold my hand up. I got that one badly wrong. He looked exceptional on Saturday. The beauty of Farrell is that he's a competitor wherever you play him. He's world class at 10 or 12, so that just gives them an extra dimension. And Tuilagi always had the capacity. You know, he's stringing games together, and they've found monster winger, and Johnny May, who scores tries, and Elliot Daly just has extreme pace. So for the viewers at home, I think to understand that at club level you can get away with a lot of this, but at test level, especially at Twickenham on a firm pitch, on a beautiful day to play rugby, you get caught. And Stockdale wasn't out by much, but he was out, and that's all that matters, a fraction of a second. And then for one of the other tries, you had three backs doing one thing, and you had the winger Conway doing a different thing. So that would disappoint you as a coach in the fact that you don't mind getting beaten genuinely if you've all bought in and you're doing the same thing, but there didn't seem to be what's the word, collective conviction in the call.
Yeah, we should. It's worrying, really, isn't it? Like, you've 10 starters who beat New Zealand. You've enough people with experience on there. It's kind of tempting to say that shouldn't really be happening 4 weeks out from a World Cup. I know, like.
No, you're right. It is very, worrying for the public. If you're a player, you're involved. It's disappointing, and it would knock you for six, I think. You know, because. Right. The reality is, Joe, to win a World Cup, you're going to you need a really good squad, and especially numbers 23 to 31 are going to be crucial. And a lot of these guys are vital to what Ireland hopes to do at this World Cup. And I think Saturday it knocked the sail or the wind out of a lot of us.
There's also a sense like that Ireland and Irish teams, if we throw in, and I know it's not a direct comparison, but it's not a million miles off either, if we throw in Munster against Saracens and Leinster against Saracens and Ireland-England at the Aviva and what just happened to Twickenham, Irish teams are coming up against this English power game, this English wall, and they're not finding answers in attack either.
No, and it's very hard if you don't win collisions, and it's easier to win collisions with massive men. And you can go back and say, well, yeah, in the Aviva we won collisions against massive men, but that seems a very, very long time ago now. But you look at the multiple threats, and I think people sometimes may understand, but with the power game, there also has to be other threats, and I think England have got the balance right. You look at Vunipola, you look at Underhill, and you look at Curry. The contrast in their capacities to play a number of games is fascinating, because they can play off Vunipola, but also they can link, and Kyle Sinclair is putting beautiful little tip balls on the line. But all this happens if you have that extra second. And I think also, which probably wasn't mentioned too often, it could have been 70 if Ben Youngs played well. But he was well off the pace. He had a number of really big errors, and he's cost his own team I think, a lot of momentum in the game.
So if we come up against that kind of power again at the World Cup, there's very little evidence over the last 10 months to suggest we're going to find a way around it.
On current form, yeah, I would agree with you. But you look then at the Bundy Aki try was very interesting in the fact that he decided to have a go and he beat 5 players and he scored a try. But why does it take to, when the game is over, to do that? Or what is the criteria for him not to do that earlier in the game? Because there are very few players of his power in the world game playing, and you can take Tuilagi is more powerful than him, but I wouldn't be too sure on front football who you'd fancy. I
was reading a piece, Brian Moore in the Irish Independent, and he was saying various things people have said. He said, for the first time in several years, I could not fathom what sort of game plan Ireland were trying to play, which was a statement which jumped out. But of their attack, if we're talking about Bundy Aki as a brilliant piece of individual play, collectively, I don't know what we're seeing in attack. His take on the Irish attack was there was no pace, there was little deception, badly timed runs and passes, only twice they looked threatening, was his take on the Irish attack. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, well, it is, I think, but it's always very easy too for all of us to pick out what isn't going right. But I think what you need to do is you kind of try to provide solutions and try and provide solutions to the viewer at home. But essentially, Joe, from spending a lot of time in studio, everyone looks so much better on the front foot after winning collisions, but Ireland didn't win collisions, and poor Ross Byrne at number 10, I've been there too. There aren't very many pass options for him. It doesn't make you very good either, because if you're trying to run into Vinopola or Underwood or any one of their back rows, Curry, Itojo, it's not a wise option.
And what's your read on what's going on at 10 now? Because Ross Byrne has gone from not being third man in the Six Nations to suddenly being parachuted into a game like we saw at Twickenham.
Yeah, exactly, which isn't, the reality is that when you do your planning, I think obviously you're planning on your number 1 and 2 occupying most of the time for warm-up games, okay?
Yeah.
But what has happened in this case is that 3 and 4 have to steer the ship, and are spending an awful lot more time than the management would like. And I don't know how it's going to go this weekend, but Joey Carberry, because of his capacity to play the game probably a slightly different way to traditional 10s, he becomes more and more valuable to this team, Joe. I genuinely believe that.
And what does the fact that he's gone for Byrne over Carty tell us? Like, does that hint at issues with Sexton potentially, or
no? No, I don't think so. I just think that he needed to have a look at both of them. So, like, these are games which obviously performance is crucial, but obviously after the weekend, performance and result were crucial because I think, and I know very well, when your confidence evaporates, it makes the game so much more difficult, and that's where it seems this Irish team is. Yeah. And not to make direct comparisons with 07 in many ways, but the one thing I always remember you saying, or different players saying, but I think you in particular when you were in with Ger and Brian O'Driscoll recently, so say everyone's a bit shell-shocked now in that camp, and suddenly Scotland in 4 weeks seems very, very close, and maybe there's I was going to say a hint of panic. There may not be, whatever. There could be a temptation now to work even harder, to hit the training ground even harder now, and to find answers and search. And you can almost get lost in a momentum in a bad way. So they're going to have to plot the course now. I'll come on to Rory Best in a second. I'm sure he's desperate to get out and try and sort something out. But you can actually, I presume, deplete your energy levels. You can burn nervous energy. They need to be careful how they react to this defeat, I would think, Ronan, based on what you've said about 07. Yeah, absolutely. But it's 12 years on, so this team has done a lot of positive things that other Irish teams haven't done. So they should be a lot more confident, and I think their backbone would be a lot stronger than previous Irish teams, and I don't think they're too bothered about previous Irish teams, which is a good thing. I think they can take important lessons from previous World Cup campaigns, but also the fact that I think what is most important is that they don't lose trust in each other. These players have achieved an awful lot together, but now it has come to a point where character is going to be absolutely crucial. Playing for your brother, your teammate, whatever you call them, becomes absolutely critical, and you don't overplay your hand. I think it's important that there's a massive, I suppose, emphasis on doing the simple things well, and then you'd be surprised how quickly as the confidence evaporates from you, it can come back very quickly in genuinely really good players. So that's the optimism within me that says that I think the massive advantage this team's have is happening now. There's 2 very sticky games, but as we all know, once the World Cup starts, everything boils down to the Scottish game and getting momentum from that game, and then you could be away. But the flip side of that is you could have changed around your ankles.
Yeah. Rory Best is coming in for a lot of scrutiny. 6 Irish lineouts lost. He didn't obviously lose all of them. Ireland, you could trace maybe 21 points conceded to lost lineouts. There is a sense that he's looking every inch of his 37 years of age. Like, how much pressure is Best under now? And he's the captain as well, which is another complicating factor. Is he under big pressure for his starting place?
I wouldn't think so, no. Genuine. I think that I didn't see any improvement when he wasn't on the pitch. So if there was something gaping like that, I think it seems that it would be pretty obvious. I think people don't understand rugby when you have Itojo and Cruz and Courtney Laws coming off the bench, and they're tripping the lineouts and they're putting it under extreme pressure. He didn't have a good day at the lineouts, and that's his responsibility, obviously, along with the lineout leader. But like he's done for however long he's playing, 15 years, I think he'll lift up his hands and he'll go, yeah, I need to get better. And I think he will get better, but it would also, for me, I think it would rock the team more, the fact that you would exclude someone that you have considered your leader for the best part of a decade. That's only a personal feeling.
No. It's 2 sides of a different coin, I suppose, the same coin. Even if you've lost faith in him as a teammate, even if he's been a brilliant leader, like, I'm wondering how much leadership counts if he's not delivering on the basics.
If you've lost faith in it, I think then it's up to the senior players to go to Joe and say that I don't think this guy is up to it. But I think from Saturday's viewing, there could be 15 fellas knocking on doors, though. Yeah,
that's the thing, I suppose.
It's easy to pick out a 37-year-old, very, very easy.
Yeah.
But how many times has, Federer been written off? He's been dead and buried, and then all of a sudden he comes back and everyone thinks he's great. He has a chance to reply, but he'd be the first to admit that he needs to up his game.
Did anybody emerge with any positives from Saturday?
I thought for the first half, I was impressed. Obviously, I thought Cian Healy was good around the pitch. I thought Henderson was good. And maybe I'm being extra positive there, but I genuinely thought they were interesting. I thought just Cian Healy's tackle alone on Ford just shows his capacity under the new laws, how disciplined he is, and I think he's played his 90th game. It's a massive credit to his professionalism and attitude that he's still improving year on year.
Ian Henderson was calling the line out. Devon Toner's pretty much nailed on now, based, and every time we've seen Ireland without Devon Toner, it doesn't seem to quite work.
And I don't get that either, Joe, and the fact that I don't understand exactly the nitty-gritty involved and the skill involved in that, but it's obviously a hugely skilled position, and it's only when you talk to people like Paul O'Connell, Donncha Ryan, you get a massive understanding of what is involved in that role. But I, sitting on the couch, I don't appreciate the value or the pressure these guys are under, and I know Alan Quinlan was good at it when he played for Munster, but I also tried to find out what is involved, and I think it is quite complex and detailed, yet it's the same as anything. When you get it right, it's a very simple process. So there seems to be an issue when Devon doesn't play.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Keith in a couple of minutes. I'm going to let you go now and get his thoughts on the lineout in particular. I suppose when they've been basically in camp for 8-9 weeks, you could almost forgive a bit of sloppiness with some attacking moves or plays or running lines not in sync. But you would think they've been working on lineout in shape,
but Joe, I think
for weeks. It's something you can practice in isolation.
But under what pressure, I think, is the key phrase. Yeah. I just don't think you can replicate that. It's all well and good when you've 15 against 15, and a lot of them are good friends in camp a lot, but they got an absolute rocket on Saturday. And good teams will either have to reply from this. And as I said earlier in the piece, I genuinely think a lot of it now isn't really rugby orientated. I think a lot of it is character focused. So it'll be important to see who's grabbing the session by the scruff of the neck this week, and who's driving this team, and who wants to put their head up and say, I'm a leader here. I want to take control of this, and I think that's a massive opportunity for these players. Yeah.
Okay. So to sum up, then, I suppose the question people effectively are asking is, how worried are we now? Like, I mean, at this point, a semi-final feels unlikely, to say the least. How worried are you, if you have to sum it up?
I wouldn't look upon it how worried, but I think I was blown away by how good England were. I expected them to be good, and I thought with the team's name before the game, I thought it would be around England would win by about 20 points, I thought. But having watched the game, it was whoa. They were very accurate, but Ireland made them look really good as well, with some I suppose very bizarre reads defensively, in terms of the system, with Bundyaki hitting in on an 8 when the 8 picks. I just found that a little bit strange for a senior player, and I thought Stockdale got his timing off by a little bit, but that happens when you second guess, and Twickenham isn't the place for second guessing.
No, sure isn't. Listen, thanks so much for that. Much appreciated.
Come on, Joe. Good to chat to you. Thank you.
Ronan O'Gara there. Our rugby coverage with thanks to Vodafone. Team of us, every winning. As mentioned, schedules didn't quite coincide, but we're going to talk to Keith Wood in just a sec.
Monday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
Introducing Go Loud, the new app that brings together your favourite radio stations, podcasts and music. Download the Go Loud app for free or listen online at goloudnow.com. Go Loud, podcasts, radio and music to your ears.
Bruce Betting, one of Ireland's leading bookmakers. With best odds guaranteed on UK and Irish horse racing, Bruce Betting has you covered. And with the Bruce Betting app, we're always giving you more. T's and C's apply. Bruce Betting, in-store, online and now on your phone. Over 18s, please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Get into Carphone Warehouse now for our best ever mega deal, which ends today. Get the new Samsung S10e for only $99.99 and get a free Samsung tablet. Get a free Samsung wireless charger and get free AKG wireless headphones. This amazing deal saves you over €600. Available when you switch to a €40 a month plan with Vodafone. But this best ever deal is only when you switch at Carphone Warehouse. And when it's gone, it's gone. T's and C's apply. Offer subject to availability and a 24-month contract.
So, the kids are back at school. They've done their homework. It's lush and rain outside. How do you keep them entertained? Easy. With the new extended gaming range at appliancesdelivered.ie. You mightn't know your Minecraft from your Grand Theft Auto, but Appliances Delivered has everything they need. From PlayStations, Nintendos and Xboxes to PC accessories and enough games to keep them quiet till Christmas. Well, a fortnight anyway. Boom! The new extended gaming range now available at appliancesdelivered.ie.
Have a great evening with itsforwomen.ie. Great value car insurance on the web, on demand, on the go. Itsforwomen.ie. It's always on hand. It's always online.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Now then, welcome back. So Keith Wood's with us now. Hi, Keith.
Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
Oh, we're all worried. We're all getting very worried. We're all getting a bit pent up here. I know you were listening to Ronan there. Immediate thoughts? Where do you want to start?
I was at Twickenham. It was amazingly warm. It was a different sort of crowd. It was mostly English. Normally when you have an Ireland-England game, you'll have a third of them Irish at least. And I thought we'd lose, and I didn't think we'd lose by much. And I had an expectation of certain things, and they didn't come through. So it was a chastening afternoon of rugby, I have to say. And equally well, I was the holder as captain of that last record that was beaten in 2000, so 19 years ago.
Yeah.
I'd
say you never thought that record would be broken.
Well, you just don't have any joy in any of those sort of things at all. I didn't have joy 19 years ago, and I didn't have any joy on Saturday either. And look, I found it very hard to watch, very frustrating to watch. And it's really interesting listening to Rog. And Rog he's in the midst of the game as a coach. He's looking at all the different parts and components. And I think there are technical things that we can go through at different times. For me, there's an emotional thing as part of it, which makes it a bit harder. He calls it character. And I do think we're a couple of weeks away from playing. And I think if we take that and make that as an assessment of this whole thing, that actually we're a couple of steps off the mark, as we probably should be, because we're in a slightly different cycle from England. They'd played 2 big games on the way up. Their players may not have played all of those games, but they came on in all those matches. They are battle hardened and they were sharp. We were fatigued and not sharp. But I had an expectation of other things to happen, and they didn't happen. And that's what means I'm with you a little bit, Joe. I worry a bit too. Yeah.
I mean, I go back and forth on it because I'm acutely conscious of the fact that for 12 Irish players, this was the first game of their season in the heat against this English side with 2 games under their belt. And yet, 10 starters have beat New Zealand last year, I said to Ronan. And there was a moment, you mightn't have caught it on screen, but after one of the tries, it was kind of hard to keep track. But Peter O'Mahony was in a huddle behind the goal, and he was almost just saying, right, this has to, whatever nonsense going on here, this is like, let's just limit the damage here. Let's just dig in and not concede another try. And they duly did. It was almost worrying that whatever kind of baseline professionalism or resolve has been there with Joe Schmidt teams, that, the defeats like this don't really happen to Joe Schmidt teams, that resolve had dissipated to this extent. That was almost the kind of worrying breaking point they seem to have reached.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that view. I would take there's a couple of things. If I break it back down to the start, and I know Raj talked about England a lot, but if I look at their ball carrying, which was done at huge pace, which I'm a big fan of, so they kind of played a lot of the way I like to see rugby played, which is players running onto the ball. I don't like to see static ball at all in attack or defence, as it turns out. I like to see guys running onto the ball. It's a good skill, but also gives you an opportunity for a step and a movement and get into a stronger position. England did that incredibly well with the size of players we don't have, right? So that's the first part. Secondly, they offloaded at an alarming rate. I mean, we just have not seen that. We haven't seen it to that level. Not offloads by the backs per se, but offloads by very big forwards running at full tilt, pulling the ball back or offloading very carefully. And it looked as if all the players that were in there, that little diamond that goes behind them, the little group of players of 3 or 4 were available for selection for whatever pass was on. That's really good play. So that's great play. What upset me about that is that our defensive setup seemed to be an element of drift defence as opposed to press. And whether it's just me, I feel we're at our best with Munster, with Ireland, with a hard press defence that cuts down the space. Yeah. And we weren't cutting down the space. So it's fine for a player to run onto the ball, but if he gets another 3 yards to run, he's nigh on impossible. And they targeted Ross Byrne a lot. And there was a feeling, because you could see it within the setup of our backs, that was recognised, and at different times they'd put Aki in to take that tackle. And it felt a lot of the time that because we were soaking some of the tackles a bit, that it was taking two guys to make the tackle. And when that happened, there was an overlap. So I felt we were very vulnerable. I thought we came out of the line at different times. Stockdale did a couple of times. Devon Toner did at the end, in the urge to make the big hit. But I think Ronan touched on it. You need to do that as a cohort. You need to say, okay, there's 5 of us going up in a line here at the moment. Because when that happens, you're going to make a collision and a tackle. One guy goes up, there's a gap. And like that's all you're saying to any kid that ever plays. Look for somebody that comes out of the line. You can pass behind his back or step, you can step into a hole that doesn't exist if there's a straight line. And I think that seemed to put us under huge pressure. And England were on fire.
Yeah.
The quality of their passing was incredibly excellent. And I would have said they carried the ball with. So Eddie Jones talked about brutality, which again they're words that are maybe more commonplace at rugby now, but you don't kind of like that so much. But there was brutality in the manner in which they were carrying the ball. They were exacting a toll every time they ran into the gain line to run over the gain line. So I thought they were in control of the game for a huge amount of it. And Rona did mention again, Ben Youngs had a poor game. He was flinging the ball high, low, couple of Barnes Wallaces skipping along the ground. It could have been harder. And so for me, I like more of a press defence, and that may be simplistic. But I still expected, because of January, I expected us, even if it was only 20 minutes or 30 minutes in the first half and 20 minutes in the second half, because I know we're fatigued because we're at a different point in the cycle, I'd still expect the fact that we would meet their power. We would have met it to stop it, because that's something we had to put a marker down to.
Yes.
So we've lost to that twice in the Six Nations, and it's we say we were found out, if that was the phrase, but we needed to stop it even for a period of time, and we didn't.
Okay, well, that's an interesting point. On a superficial level, even 3 lost lineouts led ultimately to 21 points for England. So that would have turned a 42-point defeat into a 21-point defeat, which would have been a lot more palatable, I suspect. Talk to us about the lineout situation then. Talk to us about Rory Best. Is it possible for you, with the extra bit of knowledge that you'd have, having been in this position, to discern where the blame lies for what went wrong at lineout, or is that too difficult from afar?
Well, I actually looked at them again today. Right. So just to try, I didn't see them all because the highlight package that was there only showed a few of them. So I went over that part again. There was a couple I saw in 34 and 44 minutes that Rory threw and he underthrew. And one was an underthrow by a couple of meters on 34 minutes. And if you're looking for an insight, I'm trying to remember what it's back to when I played. It's a long time since I played. But I would have said that in the last 5 to 10 minutes of a half, and maybe last 20 minutes of the second half, that when you're throwing the ball to the back, you throw it an extra couple of meters longer. Yeah. It doesn't go any longer. Yeah. But you're tired. Yeah. And you've taken a bit of a bashing, scrum time, ruck time, all that sort of stuff. You have to put more into it. And I thought one was an underthrow and was picked off well, but it was an underthrow, a couple of meters short. The other one was a drift off the line. So it was, it kind of went through, I can't remember which jumper we had at the back. It kind of went through his hands, but if it was straighter down Ireland's line, it would have been caught. I think the player lost height trying to go across the line to get it. So they're mistakes. And what happens within that, and trying to, and this isn't to absolve Rory Best in any way, and we'll come back to him again in a moment. When your confidence goes, and it can go very, very quickly, even a guy who's captain, even a guy who's 37, somebody goes for a lift that isn't as slick as possible, and you don't know whether he's up or not, right? And you throw it. You may throw it early, or you may throw it late. You think there's going to be a delay on it. You start doubting the things that you can do very, very well. And I felt at that stage we were throwing against an England setup that looked it isn't that they knew our calls. They knew the type of line-out we were looking to go and do. And they were putting us under pressure at that trigger point. As the ball was being released, they were putting up a player in a front or behind those with great accuracy. So those throws had to be pinpoint accuracy, and some of them weren't. I think there was a couple of not fully completed lifts later on, and it didn't change when Rory went off. It still became difficult. But it isn't just the confidence of one player, then it's the confidence of the others. So I was looking at that saying, again, going back to my own experience, and there's days that I threw like a bloody dead duck, and and it's a horrible place to be, quite a lonely place to be actually, when especially when you're captain, you're throwing in and it's not working well for you. But our lineouts were slow. Yeah. Our walk up to the lineout was
Joe
slow.
Schmidt made that point. He said that we put pressure on ourselves because we put pressure on Ian Henderson. He was calling the line-out, by the way, by being a bit slow with their process. And he's calling. So England got to see a picture early and then they can get into it. On best generally, and it's not just the line-out. Any debate over best seemed to be put to bed after Sean Cronin's misadventures in Rome in the Six Nations. The sense now is that debate has reopened on the eve of the World Cup and he's the captain. Is he under big pressure for his place?
He's absolutely under huge pressure. Of course he is. And I know Ronan said he didn't think he was. You need your players, you need all your players to be playing at the best of their ability, and which he is under pressure. And he knows it full well himself. And I'm sure Joe does as well. He wants his leaders to lead. He wants his players to be the guys that can deliver on the field. And we're talking about him. We're not talking about other players at the moment. For me, there's a worry in the fact that we haven't seen other players getting more game time or making more out of more game time over the last few years. He's 37 years of age. There's normally a really good young fella, 21, 22, coming in, knocking on the door. We haven't seemed to have that for a period of time, or the guys that have been coming through have got injured at inopportune moments in time. So if I'm looking and saying, is he under pressure? Of course he's under pressure. Is there a guy standing up immediately saying, pick me instead? I don't know that there is really, and that's part of the quandary. They're all good players, but we're not looking for good at the moment. We're looking for best in class to go to a World Cup. We're looking to be great, and now that doesn't mean that. I don't know that he'll get a run this Saturday, and I think another hooker will get a run this Saturday. Maybe two other hookers get a run this Saturday. I don't know that. I'm guessing. I don't know the strategy that they have around these games. I would expect him to play in on the following Saturday, and I would expect that team to be as close as to our test team as possible, because they need to do it. And that's the day he needs to be fantastic. But before that, whoever gets a chance on Saturday, be it 30 or 40 minutes each for the two hookers who get on the coming Saturday, they have to be fantastic too. Yeah, we're looking for accuracy at the line-out. We're looking for consistency and great play and trying to get up. So we seem to have lost. Maybe it's almost as if we lose a bit of a week because of the manner of the loss at the weekend. So now. I'm being negative in this, right? And I think that's fair, because I think everybody's negative when they're looking at it at the weekend. Do I think all of this stuff is rectifiable? Yes, I do. And you mentioned a point there that is there a fear that we'll do too much now and everybody will try too hard and we'll get burnt out by the World Cup? I hope that there isn't. Yeah. And I think we need to be trying other players, because that's whatever the plan was, the plan still has to be. Yeah.
Just a last one as a matter of interest. It's very difficult, I would think, when you're in Rory Best's position and you've got to sort out your own situation, and that's not easy and that'll take work. Is your captaincy, does it feel undermined? I mean, you can relate to this. If you're not in a good place, if you're not playing well, and yet you're trying to be the captain and gee up other lads and play that role, that must be actually quite a difficult thing to do.
I don't think it is. Okay. Actually, I think that's one of the reasons you're captain in the first place. And part of being a captain is you're not going to be captain and play good games or great games every time you play. So I had a couple of stinkers when I was captain, and you are. But your job is still to captain. So are you going to go quiet just because things aren't going great for you. Well, that's the absolute opposite of what a captain is. Captain is there for the team, is to do it for the team. So even if he isn't doing very well or as well, he has to fight back to get it. He still has to do the rest of his job. But there's a big, large leadership core, and that leadership element is shared now. It isn't just one person.
Sure.
It is shared. It should be shared. And I think we're having a conversation over lineouts here, but I think we need to have a conversation over a lot of the players that played. We need the players to stand up. There isn't just one leader in that team. There are many, and they need to start playing to a higher standard. Now, if we put the caveat that they're a couple of weeks away, I think they can get back within that period of time. I don't think we need to lose faith, and we shouldn't be looking to do that at this stage out. There is a process, there is a strategy, there is a timing differential that we have at the moment, but we need to do that now. We can't be really waiting from here on in, and we don't have a whole lot of leeway. Because the way it goes, it isn't just the confidence inside the team, it's also the confidence outside the team. And you want to go out on a flight to Japan and say, I have my country behind me and I want to go and win. And that's where they have to get to over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great stuff. We'll leave it there. Thanks, Emil.
Cheers, Joe.
Monday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us. Everyone in.
I hear you some wiring needs a fixing, ma'am. The name's Buzz, on account of my work.
No chance.
Not all cowboys ride horses. All safe